Hi children, today I am going to start 22nd lesson. It is a civics lesson and the title of the lesson is Citizens and the Government. It is regarding Right to Information Act which was passed in 2005. How can we apply for it and what are the provisions of this act that we are going to learn in this lesson. Actually, every government department functions on the basis of certain rules and regulations. How to appoint people in the department, how they are to be transferred, everything will be laid down in the rules and regulations, and according to these rules and regulations the departments function. And all these rules and regulations, they are preserved in the form of records in the government department. For example, in the revenue department, rules regarding land records will be there. In education department, rules regarding education, schools, how to recruit teachers, how to distribute midday meals, how to procure books from the government, how they are to be distributed to the children. All these are laid down in the rules and regulations. In the same way, health department, how to appoint paramedical staff, doctors, and how to procure medicines, how to distribute these medicines to the poor people. All these are laid down in the rules and regulations. Now, all these rules and regulations are laid down and they are preserved in the government departments in the form of records or documents, and that is called as information. Now let us see what is information. Material in any form including records, documents, memos, emails or advices or any data received in the form of electronic form, everything comes under information. And whenever the citizens requires any information from these government departments, they are supposed to furnish that information because it is already preserved in the departments in the form of records and documents. They have to furnish this information to the citizens. Now, what is the use of this information to a citizen? Why he requires such information from the government departments? If the citizens have any doubt about the malpractices going on in the functioning of the department or any other doubt regarding the money spent on so and so project, they can apply through RTA and they can get the information. And if they apply and they get the information, that means the government is transparent, and a government transparent can never be corrupt. So through RTA we can get any information from the government department, and only when we have a doubt about the malpractices going on in the functioning of the department or any other doubt regarding the functioning of the government department, we can acquire such information from the government departments. Now, before RTA was introduced in 2005, prior to that, whenever any information was needed, it was given only to the executives, that means only the ministers, MLAs or MPs, they used to get the required information from the government departments. But after the RTI was passed in 2005, even the common citizens are able to get the information from the government departments. And now, because the RTI is there and everyone can seek information from the government departments, it is the responsibility of each and every department to maintain the records perfectly and accurately, and also make them available to any citizen whenever asked for. Through RTA we can apply for it, and then it is the responsibility of the government department to furnish the information. And some departments, even before being asked, they are displaying, nowadays they are displaying information in the form of notice boards. You might have seen here and there, whenever a road is constructed, a new road is constructed or repairs are done, the public works department, which is in charge of maintaining and repairing roads, it is public works department's duty. And this public works department displays a notice board showing the details of the information, like what is the money spent on the construction of the road, how many laborers worked, and for how many days they worked, in how many days it was completed, and all this information will be displayed in the form of a notice board. Now, who is responsible? That means what is the arrangement made in the government departments to furnish the required information? Through RTA. Whenever people apply for information through RTA, what is the arrangement made to provide this information to the people? Now let us see. At the lowest level in each and every government department, whether it is state level or central level, At the lowest level, there is one public information officer, and he is responsible to the state public information officer at state level and central public information officer at central level. And again, these are SIO and CIO. They are responsible and answerable to the SPIC and CPIC. SPIC means State Public Information Commissioner. CPIC means Central Public Information Commissioner. If you see this table, you can easily get it. At the lowest level, there is Public Information Officer at state level, and at central level also there is Public Information Officer. And apart from these Public Information Officer, there is an appellate authority also. Appellate authority means, suppose it is a school, government school. If the children have problem, whom will they approach to get their problem solved? They will approach the headmaster or the principal. So, to whom they appeal, it is called as appellate authority. In a school, headmaster or principal is the appellate authority. Like that, in each and every department, there is an appellate authority and public information officer, and both these are responsible and answerable to the state public information officer, and at central level, they are responsible and answerable to the Central Information Office. And these two again, SIO and CIO, they are responsible and answerable to, at state level, State Public Information Commissioner, that is SPIC or SPIC. And at central level, the CIO is answerable to the Central Public Information Commissioner, that is CPIC. Now, let us see an example. If you want to file a case, if you want to acquire any information from mandal level, at mandal level or district level, what is the expenditure incurred on the construction of a road in your village? You want to know, and you want to apply through RTI. At mandal level or district level, you can apply. And at mandal level, when you apply, they cannot say that the information is not available with them, and they cannot ask you to go to the district level. And if you apply at district level, there also they cannot deny saying that you go to the mandal level and get the information. Whenever a citizen applies through RTI, it is their prime responsibility to accept the application first. Whether the information is available at that level or not, they have to accept the application, and then they are responsible for forwarding this application to the concerned authorities. They only should forward the application to the concerned authorities, requesting them to furnish the required information within the stipulated time. That is what they have to do. When a citizen applies through RTI, they should accept the application and they should forward it to the concerned authorities wherever that information is available. And they should request them to furnish the information directly to the citizens. And if public information officers at state level or central level, they refuse, or at mandal level or district level, you are going for getting information regarding the expenditure on the construction of a road. Both at mandal level and district level also, the public information officers, they refuse to accept your application. Then what can be done? It is at the time that this SPIC and CPIC come into the picture. At state level, SPIC, and at central level, CPIC, they come into the picture, and they can penalize the PIOs. Penalize means they can impose penalties on these PIOs for not accepting your application. I hope it is clear now. Let us move. Now, however, suppose these public information officers, they notice some type of violation of laws in the functioning of government departments. What can they do? These public information officers or SPIC or CPIC, when they notice that there is violation of laws in the functioning of a certain department, even then they cannot take any action against the department or against the officials. This power is only given to the courts. The power to take action against the government department or against the government officials working in certain government departments, it is with the courts only. These information officers cannot do anything. Only SPIC and CPIC, as I told you, they can impose fine on the public information officers for not accepting the application. That's all. Now, according to the RTI Act, this these provisions of the Act are to be followed by certain public authorities, and they are institutions. Any institution created under the Constitution or created under the orders of the government or the parliament or the state legislatures, all these people, they should follow the provisions of the RTI Act. Now, there are some exemptions for disclosing the information. When we apply through RTI, information should be given by the government departments, but there is a limit. There are some exemptions which cannot be disclosed to the public even through RTI. Now, what are those exemptions? First one is information that affects the sovereignty and integrity of India. If by revealing any information, the national integrity of India and the sovereignty of India gets affected, that type of information should not be revealed. In the same way, the MPs and MLAs, they enjoy some privileges when compared to the common people. They enjoy many privileges. And by revealing any information, if there is any threat to such privileges enjoyed by the MPs and MLAs, that type of information cannot be revealed. And thirdly, if we receive any information from foreign countries in confidence, to be confidential, that information cannot be revealed. And information which endangers the life or physical safety of a person. If by revealing any information there is a threat to the physical safety of a person or to the life of a person, such information cannot be revealed. And as you know, cabinet ministers, they are the most important ministers and they take all the policy decisions. And before a final decision is taken, the cabinet papers or records of Council of Ministers, they cannot be revealed. Because once they take the final decision, it becomes a law. And then it will be known to all the people. But before a final decision is taken, these cabinet papers or records of the Council of Ministers cannot be revealed to the public even through RTI. These are the exemptions for disclosing the information through RTI. Now, who can make changes in this RTI? It is again Parliament. In our Constitution also, the amendments can be made only by the Parliament, can be initiated by the Parliament only. And in this Act also, RTI Act, if any changes are to be made in the provisions of the Act, the Parliament can change the Act. But it cannot change the fundamental right to information itself, because this is a fundamental right. No, it is included in the fundamental rights of the Constitution, so that cannot be changed, but the provisions of the Act can be changed if needed by the Parliament. Now, people and RTI. How to apply for this RTI? To get information from any government department. Any citizen can approach any department of the government and ask for any information which is preserved in the government offices in the form of records. And for acquiring this information, we need not give an explanation why we need this information. We need not give any explanation. And also, this request can be sent through a handwritten letter or email, or information will be provided in the official language of the state or in English language or Hindi. In these three languages, official language of the state, English or Hindi, it will be provided to the citizen. And if a citizen is not able to write, if he is illiterate, he or she can also he can get the information by orally dictating it at the SPIO, that means State Public Information Officer. There will be some people who draft letters and he can dictate the information and then he can get the information from the government departments. And we need not reveal our name and our identity also. Our name will be kept secretly, but we have to give our postal address so that we will receive the information through post. And a nominal fee of rupees 5 or rupees or 10 rupees is collected for giving this information at different levels. And if the person belongs to BPL families, that fee also need not be paid. It is free of cost. Now, democracy requires an informed citizenry. Informed citizenry means, democracy means people's rule, people's government. People are themselves forming into a government. They are electing their representatives and these representatives are ruling the country. So, who are forming the government? The people themselves. So, democracy is people's rule, people's government. So, people should know everything. All the information must be made known to the people. That is the meaning of informed citizenry. Citizens must be informed of each and everything going on in the government departments. So democracy always requires an informed citizenry and transparency of the information. Whatever is done by the government, whatever actions are being taken by the, or decisions are taken by the government, that must be made known to the people. Nothing can be hidden from the people. That is called transparency. So these two are must for democracy. Democracy requires an informed citizenry and transparency of information. And this helps to curtail corruption. Corruption can be reduced. If the government is transparent, corruption can be reduced. And this also holds governments answerable to individual citizens. RTI, it makes the governments answerable to individual citizens also, because now they are questioning the government through RTI and the government is answerable. And in the same way, unlike the earlier system, earlier I told you, this type of information was being given only to the executives, elected representatives only, but now after the RTI was passed, it is being given to even to the common citizens. Now Legal Service Authority. Legal Service Authority Act 2002. It is an amendment made in the original act. Original act was passed in 1987 and it is an amendment. And according to this act, legal services authorities are constituted to provide free and legal services to the weaker sections or BPL families. Those who cannot pay court fee and all, to provide justice to such people, these legal services authorities are constituted. And under this Legal Service Authority Act 2002, Lok Adalats are set up at different levels to provide justice free of cost to the people who cannot pay the court fee. As you know, in olden days there was a system in villages. Whenever there were clashes between the villagers, they used to go to the panchayat. Panchayat means 5 elderly members, they used to sit together and they used to discuss among themselves, and then they used to resolve the problems of the villagers. And that was accepted by the villagers. They could not deny it. Because these 5 members, they are elderly persons, they are well experienced and they know what are the problems of the villagers. So after discussing thoroughly, they used to give their judgment and it was acceptable to those villagers. So like that, now the Lok Adalats are set up everywhere so that the people can go to Lok Adalats and get their cases settled in an easy way, or they get speedy judgment in Lok Adalats. So this Lok Adalat is also an old form of dispute resolution system. Just like these 5 elderly members, they used to sit and give their judgment. Lok Adalats also, if they have a small problem also, they can go to the Lok Adalat and they can get it settled there. Now, objectives of Legal Service Authority. This act, Legal Service Authority Act, was enacted. It was made to constitute Legal Services Authority for providing free legal services to the weaker section. First objective was to provide free legal services to the weaker sections or to the poor people, and to make sure that opportunities for securing justice were not denied to any citizen on the grounds of his or her incapability to pay the court fee. If a person is not able to pay the court fee, he should not be denied justice. And such people, those who cannot pay the court fee, they can go to the Lok Adalats, which are set up under Legal Service Authority, and they can get free judgment there. And to organize Lok Adalats and to ensure that equal opportunities are provided to all the people. And also to develop an effective dispute resolution mechanism outside the courts. These are not courts. Actually, Lok Adalats means people's courts only, but one of the judges in the district court, he himself becomes the judge here and he resolves the problems. But there will be no adjournments or anything else like courts. So it is outside the court that an effective dispute resolution mechanism outside the courts is established. Now, organization of legal services. What are the arrangements made at different levels to provide this free justice or free judgment to the people? Now let us see. At national level, we have NALSA, National Legal Services Authority, NALSA. It is the apex body. If you see this, NALSA, and it is the apex body, that means highest body, and it lays down the rules and regulations for the other legal services authorities at state level, district level. They will be there. For them, rules and regulations are laid down by the NALSA, and it also provides funds to the state legal services authority to carry out and implementing the legal aid schemes and programs. And at state level, there is a state legal service authority, and it is constituted to give effect to the policies and directions of the central level. Whatever policies and directions are made by the NALSA, they are to be followed by state legal services authority. And to implement those, that is the main objective of state legal services authority, to implement the orders given by the NALSA. And legal services are provided to the people, and Lok Adalats, how Lok Adalats are functioning in the state, that is also supervised by the state legal services authority. And the Chief Justice of the State High Court, he is the patron in chief, and a serving or retired judge of the High Court is nominated as its executive chairman. You have to remember this. Who is the head of the legal services authority at state level, national level, district level? You have to remember it. And next one is district legal services authority at district level. To implement the legal aid programs and schemes in the district. That is the main objective of this district legal services authority. And the district judge is its ex officio chairman. The district judge in a district court, he becomes the ex officio chairman. Ex officio chairman means as long as he or she is district judge, they also automatically they will be the ex officio chairman of the district legal services authority. And that is the meaning of ex officio. By virtue of their office, they become the chairman of the legal services authority. As long as they continue in their post, they will be ex officio chairman of district legal services authority also. And at taluka level, there are taluka legal services committees, and these are, in each taluka there will be legal services authorities at mandal level or taluka level, and these look after how these Lok Adalats are organized and how they are functioning at taluka level. And it is headed by a senior civil judge, and he only is the ex officio chairman of the committee. Now, organization of legal services at different levels. NALSA, already I gave you this information. NALSA, apex, that is the highest level, state legal services authority, district level, district legal services authority, and taluka level, taluka legal services committees. Now, functions of the legal services authority. What type of cases are settled by these Lok Adalats? The cases like matrimonial disputes, maintenance cases, harassment cases by husband and in-laws, domestic violence cases, all types of civil cases, land disputes, they are handled by these Lok Adalats. And if any case is pending before the court for a long time, such cases also can be shifted to the Lok Adalat with the consent of both the parties. If both the parties agree to shift it to the Lok Adalat, it can be shifted. And if the party has paid any court fee in the court, that will be refunded to the party, because now they are getting it settled in the Lok Adalat. It is free in Lok Adalat. So the court also refunds the fee already paid to the court. And if the court feels that a case which is pending in the court can be settled by Lok Adalat in a speedy manner, then it can also shift the case to Lok Adalat. Now, who are entitled to get benefit under legal services authority? There are some eligibilities. Who are eligible to get this free legal services, free judgment from Lok Adalat? Members of scheduled caste and scheduled caste, because they are backward, and victims of trafficking, human trafficking, those who are kidnapped and those who are suffering, beggars, women and children who are mentally ill, and who are victims of natural disasters like droughts, floods, earthquakes, industrial disasters, and also industrial workers, and persons who are in custody of juvenile homes, those who are in juvenile home. Juveniles means below 18 years of age. If anyone commits a crime, he will not be punished. He will be kept in the juvenile home for a period till he becomes a major. And after that, the court decides. So those who are living in juvenile homes, all those, and also persons with annual income of not more than 1 lakh. they are also eligible for getting free legal services. Whom to approach and how to approach. If we want to file a case through RTI, at district level we have to approach the Secretary, District Legal Services Authority and District Court Complex, and at state level we have to approach Member Secretary, State Legal Services Authority, Nyaya Seva Sadan, Hyderabad. And there are some benefits of Lok Adalat. Now let us see what are those benefits. As I told you, there is no court fee. We need not pay any court fee to the court. And if court fee is already paid in a court, that amount will be refunded if we get the case settled in a Lok Adalat. If we get the case shifted to Lok Adalat, the court fee already paid will be refunded. And the second one is procedural flexibility. While settling the case, they don't follow strictly the rules and regulations. They don't follow the Civil Procedure Code or Criminal Procedure Code. They don't follow. Just by bringing both the parties to a compromise, they try to settle the case. And that is why they are able to give speedy judgment. Did you understand? They don't follow strictly the rules and regulations of the court or Civil Procedure Code or Criminal Procedure Code. They simply try to solve the case by bringing both the parties to a compromise. If both parties agree, they give their judgment. And thirdly, the parties can directly have an interaction with the judge. This is only possible in Lok Adalat. Parties can directly have an interaction with the judge through their counsels. And the judgment given by the Lok Adalat is final and the parties have to accept it because it is equal to the order of a civil court. And also 2 copies of judgments are given free of cost to both the parties because in future they may need. Otherwise we have to give money for those copies. In Lok Adalat, these 2 copies of judgment are given free of cost to both the parties. And also, we can get free legal advice in Lok Adalat. Certain people, sometimes they may need some legal advice on any issue, on land disputes or any other property issues, they may need some legal advice. If it is outside the Lok Adalat, we have to pay for it. 2,000, 3,000 they charge for it, for giving legal advice. But if it is in Lok Adalat, we can get free legal advice also from the advocates. These are some of the benefits of Lok Adalat. That is the end of the lesson. As usual, I am giving homework. Read full lesson, underlining all the key points and learn all the 1 mark and 2 mark question answers and write without seeing. And complete the blanks and compare your answers with the key. And this is the key for blanks. Please first complete the blanks and then compare your answers with the key.